There's this phrase all over the Bible that can be, well, pretty unsettling. Fear the Lord. It sounds kind of dark, right? Maybe even like it totally contradicts the whole loving God idea. But what if it's actually one of the most misunderstood and powerful concepts in the entire text? We're about to unpack that.
So, right off the bat, here's the puzzle. On one hand, you get this command to fear God, but on the other, you have the famous line, God is love. I mean, those seem to be in a total head on collision. How are you supposed to fear something that is love? That's the question we're going to solve in this explainer. Let's just be honest, the phrase fear the Lord can sound really negative. It conjures up these images of, cowering in a corner, terrified of some cosmic tyrant. But as we're about to see, there's a much deeper, way more complex meaning hiding just under the surface of that one little word. And it might just change how you see everything.
Now, it's super easy to think, well, maybe the translators just messed up, picked the wrong word. But they didn't. They actually chose fear very intentionally, because it's one of the only words we have that holds a specific kind of tension from the original language. They knew if they softened it to something like respect, they'd actually lose a really crucial part of the meaning.
All right, so to really crack this, we've got to go back to the source. The first big clue is hiding in the original Hebrew word that we translate as fear. This is where the whole thing really starts to open up. Okay, so the word is yareh, and get this, it doesn't just mean one thing. It means to be afraid, sure, but it also means to stand in awe, and it means to revere or respect. It's not like you pick one definition. The word itself holds all three of these ideas together, all at the same time. And this is where you can really see that tension. Inside this one word, yareh, you've got terror and dread living right alongside awe and reverence. It's this wild combination that makes it so unique and so hard to pin down with just one simple English word. So you're probably thinking, okay, why not just use a nicer word then, like respect? Well, the problem is all those other words are just too weak. Respect doesn't make you tremble. Love doesn't really imply accountability. And honor definitely doesn't suggest that you're dealing with something powerful and frankly kind of dangerous. Yer has the whole package, the emotional, the moral, and the relational response all rolled into one. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Bible takes this one complex word and points it in two completely opposite directions. There's a type of fear that pushes you away from God, and there's a type that actually pulls you in closer. You've got this first kind of fear, think Adam in the garden, that drives you away from God. It ends in hiding and separation. But then there's this other kind, the one Proverbs talks about, that actually draws you near to God. That one results in wisdom and closeness. Same root word, two totally different results. And here's that classic example of the push-away fear. After he disobeyed, what does Adam say? I was afraid and I hid. It's a fear born from guilt, right? And what does it do? It immediately creates distance from God. But then you flip the coin and you get this. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, this is not a run and hide kind of fear. No way. This is an awe of reverence. That's the very foundation for seeing things clearly. It actually draws you closer into reality. Okay, so this all leads us to what feels like the biggest contradiction of all. That famous New Testament verse that says perfect love casts out fear. How on earth do we make sense of that with everything we've just talked about? There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. I mean, on the surface, that looks like a total knockout punch to the whole idea that we should fear the Lord, right? But the clue to solving this whole thing is literally in the next part of the verse. See? The verse tells you exactly what kind of fear it's talking about. The fear that love casts out is the one that has to do with torment or punishment. It's not talking about awe or reverence. It's specifically talking about the terror of being condemned. So you have this huge distinction. The fear of the Lord comes from seeing God for who he is, his holiness, his authority, and it pulls you in. But the fear of punishment, that comes from your own guilt and insecurity, and it shoves you away. Perfect love gets rid of the second one, not the first one. So here's the bottom line. God's love doesn't make him any less, heavy. It doesn't erase his power or his holiness. What it erases is the threat of being rejected by him. You're no longer afraid of being cast out, but you still have a healthy fear of treating him like he's no big deal. All right, let's pull all these threads together now for the final and I think most powerful piece of this whole puzzle. We've always been told that love and fear are opposites, right? But in this biblical context, the opposite of the fear of the Lord is not love. They're actually meant to go together.
The real opposite is indifference.
To not fear God doesn't mean you're loving him better. It means you've just become casual about him. He's become optional. So to fear the Lord really means you get it. You get that God matters, that he's real, that he has, as the Hebrews would say, weight, that he is a reality you simply cannot ignore. So if we were to wrap this all up in one big definition, it would be something like this. The fear of the Lord is a trembling awareness of God's overwhelming reality, an awareness that doesn't push you away, but instead draws you in to surrender, trust, and obedience.
And that really leaves us with a totally different question, doesn't it? The real question isn't whether or not you should be scared of God. The better question, based on everything we've seen, is this: what weight does God actually have in your life? Is he just a casual thought, or is he the overwhelming reality that everything else orbits around?